My name's Nate. I was 29, stuck in an IT support job that felt more like a dead-end alley than a career path. I wasn't miserable, exactly. Just numb. I clocked in every morning at 8:30 sharp, smiled at people who barely remembered my name, fixed printers, reset passwords, and got blamed when the internet went down, even though I had nothing to do with it. My title said, support technician. But in reality, I was the office handyman, therapist, and digital janitor all rolled into one. My paycheck? $18 an hour. No bonuses, no promotion in sight, and barely enough to cover rent, student loans, and gas. Every evening, after the office lights dimmed and the building emptied out, I drove home in silence. My apartment was small, just a studio with peeling paint and a microwave that sparked if you ran it too long. I dropped my bag by the door, heat up a frozen burrito, and collapse on the couch. That was my life, until one Tuesday night changed everything. I was scrolling Reddit like usual when I stumbled across a post titled, "From Janitor to Full-Stack Developer in 11 Months, AMA." The guy in the post had a background even rougher than mine. But he had grit. And he taught himself coding from scratch using free online courses and YouTube. Now, he was making six figures and traveling the world with a laptop and Wi-Fi. It lit a fire in me. That same night, I opened my laptop and searched how to learn to code. I found a free HTML course, opened a blank notepad, and typed my first line of code. HTML. Saw Chep. Shin Sua. H1 Hello World. /H1. I sat there staring at that line like it was a message from the future. From that point on, I made a promise to myself. Every night after work, I would code for at least 2 hours, no matter how tired I was, no matter how late it got. I wasn't trying to become the next Steve Jobs. I just wanted out. Out of the routine. Out of the office politics. Out of a paycheck that didn't respect my effort. The beginning was rough. HTML and CSS were manageable, but once I got to JavaScript, things got ugly. I'd spend 3 hours stuck on a single bug that turned out to be a missing semicolon. Stack Overflow became my lifeline. I started keeping a notebook of every error I encountered and how I fixed it. My apartment filled with sticky notes. I watched tutorials until my eyes hurt and coded until my back ached from sitting on a chair meant for a dining table, not an 8-hour grind. I kept this double life a secret. At work, I was still Nate the fix-it guy, the one people called when Outlook wouldn't open. At home, I was building basic apps and working through data structures and algorithms. My social life vanished. I turned down happy hours and ignored texts. My girlfriend at the time said I was becoming obsessed. She wasn't wrong, but she also didn't get it. She left 3 months into my journey. Said I was trying to be someone else. She wasn't wrong about that either. The truth was, I was trying to be someone else. Someone I actually respected. By month 4, I built my first real project, a simple to-do list app with login authentication. Ugly UI, clunky UX, but it worked. I deployed it. Then another app. Then another. I cleaned up my GitHub profile, started contributing to open source issues, and joined a Discord server for beginner developers. That's where I met Rahul, a lead engineer at a mid-sized startup. He reviewed my code, gave brutal but honest feedback, and eventually passed my name to his CTO. A month later, I was doing my first technical interview and bombing half the questions. But I didn't quit. I practiced hard. I read, cracking the coding interview, front to back. I redid the technical screen 2 weeks later, and I passed. When the offer came in, I stared at it for 10 minutes. Base salary, $91,000. That was nearly double what I made before. with benefits, a signing bonus, remote work. I quit my IT job that Friday. No speech. No fireworks. Just a quiet, calm exit. But as I walked out of that office for the last time, badge in hand, box of desk items under my arm, I smiled. Because I wasn't the guy who fixed printers anymore. I was the guy who fixed his future. My first day as a software developer felt like the first day of high school. If high school had whiteboards covered in unfamiliar acronyms, Slack channels with private jokes I didn't get, and engineers who spoke in a language I thought was English. I sat at my new desk, sleek, adjustable, with dual monitors, and a mechanical keyboard that clicked like a rhythm I hadn't yet learned. My new team welcomed me warmly. They said things like, "You'll do great," and "Don't worry, we all had to start somewhere." But inside, I was a mess. My stomach knotted when they handed me my first ticket. It was a simple bug fix on a React component. At least, that's what they said. But to me, the code base looked like a foreign city with no street signs. I stared at the terminal, my fingers frozen over the keyboard, wondering how I could go from feeling confident in my little side projects to this. A sea of functions, props, hooks, and styling conventions I'd never seen before. I must have Googled 80% of the terms on that page. For the first week, I barely wrote any code. I read documentation. I asked questions, too many maybe. I started to wonder if they'd made a mistake hiring me. Every time someone mentioned a refactor or pipeline, I smiled and nodded like I knew what was going on, then secretly searched it up later. The imposter syndrome hit hard. I thought about quitting. More than once. I'd close my laptop at the end of the day and just sit in silence, feeling like I didn't belong, like I had tricked my way in and would eventually be found out. But there was one thing that kept me going. I'd been here before. I remembered those nights, sitting alone in my kitchen, struggling to get a login form to work. I remembered crying over a button that wouldn't center. And I remembered surviving it. This was just the next level. Harder, yes, but not impossible. So I did what I'd always done. I worked. Quietly, consistently, and with every ounce of humility I had. I kept a private log of every mistake I made and how I fixed it. I wrote summaries of team discussions just so I could review the terminology later. I even built a cheat sheet of common patterns used in the code base. I stayed late to study the system architecture. I volunteered for small tickets no one wanted. And slowly, painfully, things started to click. 2 weeks in, I pushed my first successful pull request. 3 weeks in, my code was merged without comments. A month in, I was reviewing someone else's code and catching real issues. My manager noticed. "You've got good instincts," he said in our one-on-one. "You just need time. You're doing better than you think." I didn't cry, but I won't lie, that was the first night I actually let myself feel proud. Not just because I had survived, but because I was finally beginning to belong. The guy who used to reset printers and get blamed for network outages was now sitting in planning meetings discussing feature rollouts. The guy who had once begged for a $1 raise was now working on products used by thousands of users. I still had a long way to go, but I was no longer just fixing things. I was building them. 3 months in, I was finally finding my rhythm. I wasn't the fastest on the team, not by a long shot. But I'd stopped flinching every time someone used the words merge conflict. I could navigate our repo without getting lost. I even started making tiny improvements outside of my assigned tasks. A cleaner component here, a reusable function there. But just as I began to feel steady on my feet, reality did what it always does. It tested me. It started on a Tuesday morning with a casual announcement from our product lead. We've got a VIP client demo in 10 days. We're rolling out the new dashboard, and we want it shiny. Everyone nodded. Joked. Business as usual. Then I saw the Jira ticket with my name on it. Build dynamic KPI widget with real-time data. I blinked. Then blinked again. Surely that was meant for someone else. Nope. It was mine. My manager caught my eye and gave a reassuring nod. You've got this. You've been asking for more responsibility. And sure, I had been asking. But not like this. Not with a live client demo looming. Not with the CTO and investors watching. My heart dropped. But I didn't say no. I went home that night with a pit in my stomach and a headache pounding between my temples. I opened my laptop, poured a black coffee, and stared at the blinking cursor like it held all the answers. The widget needed to do 3 things. Pull real-time data from an internal API. Visualize it with interactive charts. Update smoothly without crashing the entire dashboard. Oh, and it had to be done in React, using d3.js, a library I'd never touched in my life. Great. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched tutorials on D3, forked open source projects, built sample charts, broke them, rebuilt them, broke them again. It felt like my early days all over again, frustrated, confused, half convinced I was in over my head. But I'd already fought this war once. I knew how to lose battles and still win the war. So I made a plan. I blocked my calendar to carve out coding time. I created a personal checklist. I posted progress updates in our team Slack, even when I was behind, especially when I was behind. And when I hit blockers, I didn't wait hours to ask for help. I asked, even if it made me feel stupid. On day 5, I had a working prototype. It was ugly. It lagged. It didn't handle edge cases. But it worked. By day 7, I cleaned it up, styled it to match the new branding, and integrated it into the staging environment. On day 8, I stayed at the office past midnight, refactoring the code because a senior dev gently pointed out that I had nested 3 use effects like a madman. On day 9, QA found a nasty bug that crashed the whole dashboard if the data stream timed out. I fixed it by 2 a.m., fueled by coffee and sheer spite. Day 10 came fast. I wasn't part of the demo. I watched from my screen, heart racing, as our product lead clicked through the interface. The moment they hovered over the KPI widget, I held my breath. The graph loaded. The animation ran smooth. The numbers ticked in real time. No crash. No bug. No shame. Just a brief silence then. That's slick. Really slick. From the client. My manager pinged me with a single line. You just proved you're not the junior anymore. I stared at the message for a long time. Because for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't in forever. I was exactly where I was meant to be. That night, I walked home in the cold, the city lights flickering above me, and I realized something powerful. The grind, the sleepless nights, the self-doubt, it wasn't punishment. It was proof. Proof that I belonged in this world. Not because someone gave me permission, but because I built my way in. By month 6, I had a new title, Software Engineer 2. It didn't come with a cake or balloons, just a quiet update in the company's system and a 15% raise. But it meant something. It meant I was no longer the newbie. I was now mentoring interns, leading stand-ups, getting invited to strategy meetings. And most of all, I was being noticed outside the company. The LinkedIn messages started slowly at first. A recruiter here. A quick chat, invitation there. But then one day, a message popped up that made me pause. We're building something big. You're exactly who we're looking for. Double your current salary. Let's talk. I stared at the screen. Double. Again. It was a senior role at a fast-scaling fintech startup. Full remote. Equity. A lead title. Everything I thought I wanted, wrapped in one message. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because the truth was, despite all the outside buzz, inside, I was crumbling. Ever since that big dashboard demo, I had set a pace I couldn't maintain. Long hours turned into longer habits. I'd normalized 12-hour days, midnight bug hunts, and skipping meals. My code was solid, my reputation better than ever, but I hadn't called my mom in weeks. I missed my niece's birthday. My fridge had 3 items: Red Bull, takeout containers, and guilt. My life had become lines of code, and not much else. I started waking up tired. I stopped reading for fun. My eyes burned constantly. And when I sat down at my keyboard, I didn't feel that hunger anymore, just pressure. Constant pressure. It all came to a head one Thursday afternoon when I blanked out during a sprint review. My PM asked a simple question, something about endpoint caching, and my mind just shut off. I couldn't form a sentence. I sat there, blinking at the Zoom screen like a sleep-deprived robot. After the call, my manager messaged me privately. "You okay, Nate? You seem off." I stared at that message for a full minute before typing back. "I think I need a break." He didn't push. He just responded. "Take tomorrow. Take Monday too. We've got your back." It was the first time in months I shut my laptop before midnight. That weekend, I did something radical. I went outside. No headphones, no phone, no screens. Just walked around the city. Let my thoughts settle. Watched people. Breathed. And that's when it hit me. I had climbed the ladder so fast, I never stopped to ask where it was leaning. Was I chasing money? Titles? Or was I trying to prove something to the version of myself who used to fix printers and eat frozen burritos in the dark? I pulled up that recruiter message again, the one offering double my pay, and I deleted it. Not because I wasn't tempted, but because I realized I wasn't ready to jump again just for more zeros. I needed to learn how to stay, to build a life, not just a resume. The following Monday, I returned to work, but differently. I set actual working hours. I took real breaks. I pushed back when timelines were unreasonable. I started mentoring seriously, not just answering questions, but coaching. I even blocked off Friday afternoons to teach beginners online, a way to pay it forward to the guy I used to be. And something shifted. I started enjoying the work again. Not because it got easier, but because I wasn't burning myself alive to prove I belonged. I already knew. I belonged. And that, more than any salary offer or title, was the victory I'd been chasing all along. A year had passed since the night I typed my first line of code. I still remember it. HTML. Saw Chep. Chin SUA. H1 Hello World. /H1. It's almost poetic now, because what followed really was a new world. One I built not with connections, not with credentials, but with determination and keystrokes in the quiet hours when no one was watching. And now, I could finally breathe. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was choosing how I lived. I had a steady rhythm at work, real balance, not just corporate lip service. My team respected me, not because I was the smartest in the room, but because I showed up, stayed curious, and gave a damn. I mentored new hires, reviewed code with care, and learned to say, "I don't know," without shame. But more than that, I started giving back. Every Saturday morning, I hosted a free virtual workshop for beginners, people like me who were self-taught, overlooked, or scared to try. I didn't promise magic or shortcuts. I just gave them what I never had. Someone who believed they could. One of my students, Maya, was a single mom who worked night shifts and learned HTML on her lunch breaks. Another, Ao, was a factory worker who built a weather app during his smoke breaks. I saw myself in all of them, and every time they made something work, it felt like I was winning all over again. Then came something I never expected, an email from my old company. The subject line read, "Tech training request. Nate, are you available?" Turns out they'd launched a res-killing initiative and wanted someone to lead basic coding workshops for staff. I almost laughed, not out of spite, but because it felt full circle. They hadn't believed in me back then. Now they were asking me to teach. I accepted, not because I owed them, but because I knew someone in that room would be just like I was, exhausted, undervalued, and desperate for a way out. And maybe all they needed was to see someone who made it. Someone who wasn't gifted, or lucky, or perfect. Just stubborn enough to try. When I walked into that room, yes, it was in the same building I used to fix printers in. A young guy near the back raised his hand and asked, "How do you know if you're good enough to start?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and said, "You don't. You just start anyway. And one day, you realize you were good enough all along, just no one told you." He nodded, and I saw it, that spark. The same one I once had, buried under self-doubt and cheap coffee. Sometimes people ask me if it was worth it. The nights I sacrificed. The friendships I lost. The burnout. The fear. I don't answer right away. Instead, I think about that first night, hunched over a laptop on a wobbly kitchen chair, learning what a div was. I think about the pride I felt when I deployed my first app. The panic before my first team meeting. The deep breath I took before clicking submit on my resignation email. And then I think about today. I wake up without dread. I work on things that challenge me. I help people like me. And I no longer feel like I'm chasing someone else's definition of success. I'm building my own. Line by line. Choice by choice. Life by design. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.